this is my favourite part because it's about showing you the startups that exist today that have tried to actually address big needs within our longevity and care.
I'm Jenna from LikeFamily, and we've been running now for nearly 8 years. The big problem that my husband and I experienced was when his mother had a brain disease. She had encephalitis, and at the same time his father had cancer. They didn't receive any government funding because they were originally from Montreal. And when we moved them to Sydney, they were like, don't worry about it, we'll make heaps of friends, it'll be great, we'll just go to the beach. And the reality was that every time they left the house, they'd get lost. We tried to join multiple clubs, but because of their age and disability, they just weren't making the friends that they had previously met. And it was when we were 26 and we didn't know anyone who was experiencing similar problems because all of our friends' parents were pretty healthy and still very active. And we were both working full time, so it was really challenging to be present with his parents and helping them in everything that they needed, whilst also continuing to work in our jobs. And frequently he would get called away from work and would have to get an Uber to come pick them up because they were lost, or he'd have to direct them on Find My Friends to how to get home. And then we had a beautiful friend who was a teacher at the time, but she was only working part-time. She's American, so she didn't have that kind of family connection here. And she was like, guys, you're really stressed. I would love to help you out. I miss my family back home. Can I take your parents out? So she took them on a bus to the beach, and they had a coffee, and they did some groceries, and they got along really well because she played ukulele and Matt's dad was a jazz guitarist. So they did a little jam, and that sparked this beautiful friendship. And we realized that this is not just a problem that we have, this is something that millions of people go through, this sense of loneliness and a challenge to really get out there. So we're kind of filling both sides of the need in terms of people who are who might be more vulnerable, who need that connection, that source of friendship, that ability to have confidence and find those like-minded people in the community. And on the other side, for people who are looking for some purpose, looking to make an extra few dollars, and are looking to do something really interesting as well. So that's kind of what we do at LikeFamily. We match people who are in need and looking for connection on both sides. Now we've expanded throughout the east coast of Australia and have thousands of social carers on the platform. We're NDIS approved providers, but we also work a lot in the aged care space, as well as other areas, because we are very strong with our compliance and with our the quality of social care that we do bring onto the platform. And that's us, that's the problem. Yeah, that's me.
Well, no woman who's just had a baby should apologise for getting her words, because baby brain continues for many years in my experience, and that was a lot of wonderful words. Good morning to you all. My name is Trina Probert, and I'm the founder and CEO of a business called Super Fierce. Like a lot of people in this room, I suspect I definitely connect with the idea of juggling all the roles. This week I turned 51. If anybody would like to have a celebratory drink with me later today, you're welcome. But as a 51-year-old woman, I am the mother to 4 children across 3 different households. I have a husband who had a major stroke at the end of last year, so I'm supporting him. I care for elderly parents on my side and on my father's side, and it's a juggle for everybody. I don't think it's very surprising that we've got lots of stressed people out there. But my goal in life is to harness my experience in financial services, like some of the people in the front row. For my sins, I'm an ex-Macquarie something or other. And my goal is to unlock the power of finance so that we can close the $30 trillion global gender wealth gap by making appropriate, affordable advice accessible to all women. And because I actually believe that the goal is to democratise economic security, it's not just women, but that's the group that we didn't talk about enough today, in my view. And we talked about we didn't. Mr. Salt kindly spoke about the stress that young people in their 20s are experiencing and women in their 50s. And then apparently you get this contentment phase. I'm desperately looking forward to that. And then we decline into another period of deep anxiety and loneliness. And I think what we didn't talk about enough today is that one of the key drivers of this anxiety is linked to a lack of confidence, a lack of resources, a lack of resilience, and a lot of access to financial security, to financial means. And that's the only way I was able to surprise myself in my late 40s and now 50s to become excited about superannuation. Because I, like you, not you, Phil, I, like you and everybody else in this room, used to think superannuation was pretty much the most boring thing in the world. However, it turns out that along with property, that superannuation is actually either the first or second largest financial asset for every Australian. If you are 37 today, I wish, or younger, then it will be your largest financial asset. And so we need to be making more of superannuation. We need to be able to unlock the value of this incredible, huge well of funds in order to support Australian people to live better. Not just in the future, because I also believe that the word retirement needs to go. I think that ageing needs a brand makeover. We talk about anti-ageing. What a load of rubbish. Like, we are ageing, let's embrace that. And removing these lonely pillars in society, this isn't where I focus, but I got very excited listening to everybody today, which is, I feel that the nuclear family has created a society where we're all disaggregated, we're removed from connection with each other, we're removed from experiencing the transfer of knowledge and wisdom. And so in order to get everybody embracing the turning of the years and the ageing process, it needs a rebrand, and super needs a rebrand as well, Phil. So let's work on that. So Super Fierce is my answer to that problem. At the age of 34, despite having a pretty high-flying career, I made some pretty poor decisions and had to leave an unhealthy relationship in a very fancy harbourside mansion, borrowing $3,000 from my parents with an 18-month-old under my arm to literally start my life again. And it was terrifying. It was isolating. And the difference between me and a lot of the women that go through this every single day in this country is somehow I had the resources and capabilities to step past that. So that's what Super Fierce is for me. It's an answer to the challenges that women in particular face, but also lots of marginalised communities. We touched on that, Catherine, and I don't think we went into that more deeply enough. And the very different experiences that minority groups have and the importance of leveraging the resources that we have. Now, Super Fierce is a starting point. We're propeller heads when it comes to numbers. So our answer was to unravel the complexity of superannuation. We have our own Australian financial services licence. So now any Australian can come to our platform, put in a bit of information, and for less than $50, get a legal piece of advice that unravels the complexity of super to show them how they can retire better. And yes, Phil, I would love to talk about how we can help your members too to make appropriate, affordable advice accessible, because, we've got a great opportunity and lots of challenges coming.
Thank you. Tom.
Fabulous. Hello, everybody. Anne-Marie, thank you very much for having me and us. Thanks to the panel beforehand. Just want to pay my respects to local Gadigal mob as well. I'm Tom. I'm co-founder of an organisation called Violet. That's meetviolet.ai. Violet is an integrated virtual care platform transforming how we plan for and manage the last stage of life. Violet has been a charity for the last 25 years, working in this space, so deep subject matter expertise, working with people who have lived experience of caring for people at the end of life in the home, training those up to be Violet guides, and providing that support service over the phone to anybody around the country. We're growing that into a social enterprise and using conversational AI to help people understand where they're at in that journey, to provide them with a plan, a map of all the things that you need to do and consider around being prepared for the end of life, whether you're doing that for yourself in advance or whether you're looking after someone right now. And then connecting you to a marketplace of services that are all the myriad things that you need to do across the clinical elements, the emotional support elements, and the administrative elements of the last stage of life. There's this term out of the UK called SADMIN, which you either run away from or run towards as a term, but it's very good at describing all of the sad end-of-life logistics that range from making sure that you've got the passwords in the right place. Have you thought about your funeral? Have you thought about your aged care and home care package? Have you thought about where the documents all are? Most importantly, have you had the right conversations? Have you been able to talk to your loved ones or with your family about what it is that you want from your end-of-life experience? Unfortunately, for most people, the 170,000 people who die every year in Australia, and that's going to double in the next 40 years, which is really quite remarkable. This experience generally is disorganized, complex, over-medicalized, expensive, and often leaves people with a lot of regret. But it's only people who have been through that that will tell you that. And for most of us, we leave it till it's too late. So when it comes to virtual care platforms for the end of life, we need to be a preventative product. We need to be in people's hands earlier so that they can have these conversations when it's not stressful, when we're able to have an impact, and when having a picture of what does an end-of-life plan actually look like. And I'm not talking about an advanced care directive to deal with the last few weeks. I'm talking about what do the last 10 years look like, and how do we have that in place, and how do we reduce the levels of mental health, anxiety, complex grief syndrome, and the massive impact that's having on individuals, but also on businesses. So whilst Violet has been a charity for the last 25 years, supported by philanthropy, meetviolet.ai is a commercial product. Our go-to-market strategy is to work with those businesses who most suffer from dealing with customers who present as very complex, disorganized, and distressed people when it comes to interacting around these areas, whether that's aged care and home care and healthcare system and funeral providers. They're the obvious groups, but life insurers, supers, health insurance, banks, all of these organizations deal with people at this stage, and it's a complex thing to do. And so our work is to identify innovation partners who can come on a journey with us with this new product, can help us test it out with some of their customers, and prove that families and customers who have Violet and are well-planned, well-organized, have had the conversations, have all the documents in place, will reduce the time, cost, and complexity for those businesses, and that's worth something. And that's worth them subscribing to Violet on behalf of their customers, and then passing Violet on to their customers as a value add. It's our deep conviction that in 5 years' time, it's going to be no weirder for us all to have Violet in our pockets than it is for us to have Headspace. And if you think where we were 15 years ago, no one thought you'd have a mental health app on your phone that you'd carry around with and help you with meditation every day. And now look at where we are with mental health. We think that's where end-of-life planning is going. And we think that everything that's been discussed this morning around the application of technology in the right human-centered, designed way, but using conversational AI, which we have just, if you'd asked me a year ago, is AI going to disrupt what we do as our charity around the end-of-life space conversations? I would have said, you've got to be kidding. That's the last human experience that's going to get disrupted by AI. But our experiments with ChatGPT, but also things like HeyPi, empathetic AI, it is remarkable. It is remarkable at having these conversations and getting people through that initial triage. not replacing the human element here, not replacing psychologists or counselors or doctors, but to help people get from somewhere where they are in deep distress and deeply disorganized to a place where they have a better picture of what they need to do. That's what Meet Violet is going to do.
Michael McGilligan, Smart Green Group. We're regenerative developers. I'm also one of the founders or co-founders of the Australian Community Land Trust Network. So it's a national association for community land trusts. A community land trust is a form of community-owned perpetual affordable housing. So it's power for the people, by the people, and in deep relationship and connections with their community and local government and wherever they want to take it from there. The problem we have with the housing sector is the same as we have with the aged care sector, finance, technology, superannuation, is that we take the human condition and we break it down into individual components, and then we work on them in isolation. And then we want to put it all back together, and we wonder why it's dysfunctional. We wonder why we feel so disconnected. And we wonder why our society is in socio-ecological collapse in some sectors, and also in a wildly speculative market that is creating disparity, and we can't seem to find the bridge. Regenerative development is a way of us finding a way to reshape the way we form our societies. Oh, good. Move it again if you need. And it's a way of us resetting the way that we want to shape our future. So how would we take, for instance, we have a new First Nation tribal society that have signed on. They've got 15 properties, a 15 property portfolio. So where would we deliver housing? Delivering it regeneratively would be, we would look at the uniqueness of this association and the uniqueness of the place. So we would start millions of years in the past of the geology and look for patterns in the way the land is formed, the way the flora and fauna has come, the way the first people have settled this place, the way that modernity came in and how it has shown up, the form of this political, financial, socio-ecological, cultural establishment that comes together and the patterns that work through this system. When you design from the side of the patterns in place, you're designing from the side of history. So each place is unique. You know the difference of you go into Sydney, New York, or you go to someplace in the Australian rural outback. Every place has a vibe, and when you touch on that and you touch on the people, that's what's calling the place. So then we design with the community and develop the housing with that, and we develop the community to have fields of influence and zones of relationship with the wider community. And that wider community could be based, it could be a suburb, could be a town, that'll be based in a wider city, which is based in a bioregion or a watershed. And this is a way of us developing conscious bioregional activation through community and not just looking at housing. The housing will get delivered, but it's the fields of relationship that work out in our society and then feed back and indicate the way that we shape our built environment and what we want to see from that. So what we shape in this world and the way we shape our lives reflects back on who we are, and then it shapes our behaviour. And we can get in these perpetual cycles of speculation and extraction and isolation, and these are the things that break us down as people and conscious creatures. And so we work at changing that and creating system change towards living systems. And that's the way we want to see our society for the future.
Thank you.